which running back will take Jeff Wilson's spot in the committee? I mean, I just laid it out. He's the goal line back. Is that Gallman? Is that Sermon? Is that Mitchell? He's also the best receiver out of the backfield. So is it two guys who take his spot in the committee? How do you do this?
Go ahead, Jack.
I think that spot's going to be taken by Trey Sermon. I really think that's the guy who will probably step up there. He was probably going to be the second guy off either the second guy or the starter, kind of taking that the role that's been vacated by I'm blanking on the name of the guy who nobody liked from last year that came from Atlanta. Coleman. Thank you.
Coleman, yeah.
So they kind of need to fill that Coleman role, and I think that's going to be Sermon. And I think at the same time, he's going to also be the guy that you'll see at the goal line. He's the one that makes the most sense for that spot.
Yeah, I think that we're looking at it a little bit wrong. Like, it's not who's going to replace Jeff Wilson Jr. I think the setup was how the running back core was in 2019. Coleman was the starter. Breida and Mostert would come in and kind of be like on spot duty, home run hitters, things like that. I feel like Sermon is going to go into that Coleman role. We still have Mostert. So it's really like who's going to be like Breida in the hierarchy or whatnot. So could it be Gallman? Could it be, the other rookie? I don't really know, but I think that, those first two with Sermon and Mostert are going to be pretty solidified. And, it's just going to be another kind of person that comes in, because I think they're going to go back to how the running game was in 2019. And I feel like they already have that set up already on the roster.
That's what I clued in on, was the 2019. And I agree that it's sort of the Coleman meat tenderizer role that you need. The guy who's going to take those 8-man fronts and just bruise the other team to the point where now Mostert comes in and hits the home run because they're not tackling quite as hard as they were at the beginning of the game. To me, it's a brilliant strategy and one that worked well, although for Coleman, it produced less than stellar numbers and therefore fan disdain. But I think it was a very conscious choice to run him into those stacked boxes and allow him to get those hard-fought 4-yard runs that don't look pretty, but do matter in the end of the game. For me, I looked up these two, and it's pretty surprising between Sermon and Gallman. They are similar body types. I mean, very similar when you look at their measurables. Almost identical combine times in the 40, 4.6, neither one a home run hitter. Sermon notably faster in the 10-yard split, right? So hitting that hole. But when I look at the breakdown of Wayne Gallman pre-draft 4 years ago, some of the strengths that they list remind me of Sermon hands down. Has quality burst through the line of scrimmage, hard charging, trusted option on 4th and short, decisive in the red zone. These things, that the strong second effort, uses shoulders as legitimate weapons of force against would-be tacklers. So I think that for me, when you've got Gallman coming in, who proved he can do it against NFL caliber competition last year with the Giants when they were stacking the box against him, he starts the year for me in the Coleman position. And then Sermon, much like you saw with the Rams, as the rookie understands pass protection, it grasps more of the playbook. I think you'll start to see Sermon creep into that role to where he owns it when we hit the playoffs, if we hit the playoffs.
Yeah, Gallman, in terms of filling that goal line back role that, Grant, you were touching on, Gallman has 11 career rushing touchdowns, 6 of them last year, all within 5 yards.
Okay.
He has experience as a goal line back.
That's good.
I know with the Giants last year that they were a pretty limited backfield once Saquon Barkley got hurt. But Gallman was their goal line back last year. He was decently successful, 6 rushing touchdowns. So he could take on that. I'm just more concerned with the pass catching that Wilson brought. And I know he didn't catch a lot of passes, but I thought he was a reliable pass catcher, especially, go back to 2019, that Arizona play. That was a big play. Even last year against Arizona, another big play. Kyle Shanahan relied on him in the pass game, and they don't have that, in my opinion, on the roster because Hasty's just so inexperienced in that role. And the rookies, you don't know. They just hopefully they exceed expectations early on, but you just don't know.
Yeah, Wilson's a hell of a receiver. He can make people, he can juke people, and he's got long arms and he's got good hands. So yeah, hell of a receiver. I actually think that Trey Sermon will replace that part of. I've seen him in one-on-ones. He's good. You don't see it much at Ohio State, but from what I've seen, he's really a lot like Jeff Wilson Jr. as a receiver. Similar. I don't know that he's like Jeff Wilson Jr. as a runner. Jeff Wilson Jr. goes to a very dark place, to use Kyle Shanahan's terminology. Not everyone does that. He's very special. Like my dad thinks that he's 225 pounds. Has no idea that he's 200 pounds. He's like, he's a big guy, right? I'm like, no, not really. He's about 200 pounds, but he runs like he is. So if you say Gallman could do it, then maybe it could be Gallman and Sermon, the two of them. If not, maybe they should bring in Gurley, because Gurley does get touchdowns. And I'm looking at his numbers on Over the Cap, what he's been getting. He got like 3.5 guaranteed last year, didn't play that well. I don't think he can command much money right now. It's probably why he's still out there, because he's probably in disbelief at what the offers are. So when he wants to come around to reality, why don't you come take a non-guaranteed tryout with the 49ers, see how things go. Hasn't he said he wanted to play here? He said that, right? To foreshadow a topic later. He's already said he'd be really excited to play for Kyle Shanahan, right?
Right. Probably. Most likely.
Most likely.
Elijah Mitchell is a guy here, too, that I think we should take a look at. Because if you go back and watch Elijah Mitchell's film from when he was at Louisiana, he ran between the tackles a lot. That was pretty much where they utilized him. So he would fit in that role, I think, as well. As long as they give him a little bit of a crease, I think he could hit those holes. He's actually, I think, has more carries during his time in college than Trey Sermon did.
No question. I'm looking here. Elijah Mitchell had 41 rushing touchdowns in college to Trey Sermon's 26. So, yeah, don't sleep on Elijah Mitchell. I really don't know what to expect from him, but he looks fast and big and good so far. So, it'll be
How many catches did he accrue? Greg?
Mitchell?
Not very many, but he shows really good hands.
That's what I saw
with his hands, and he's able to. I think he averaged over 11 yards a carry reception.
12, over 12. So he had 49 catches, but 12.2 yards per catch. And from what I've seen of him in the off season, is basically he's Trey Lance's favorite target right now. Trey Lance is doing a little bit of the check down thing, which is kind of his game. If you watch him at North Dakota State, we said he's a little bit of a game manager with all these explosive traits. He likes Elijah Mitchell, and Elijah Mitchell is an explosive option, so I get it. Elijah Mitchell is someone to watch. I'll be talking about him more as I see him more, because he could be better than Sermon. Who knows?